Once I went through that suffering, things switched up real quick, okay? Hey y'all, welcome back to this channel. If you have clicked this video, I am going to assume that you are in a season of suffering, or maybe you just came out of one. Who knows? Maybe you just want to hear what I have to say, but let's talk about it. Have you gone through suffering and it just does not make sense? You don't know why. You're questioning, why me? What did I do? What did I do to bring this on to myself? I have been there. I have, gone through all the emotions, walked through the whole process, and I just want to leave you with some wisdom and some revelation that I have got from my journey of going through my suffering. And baby, I was not trying to sit through no suffering. I was trying to get up out of it as quickly as possible. But sometimes in life you have to just make the decision to just go with the process, go with the flow, and get through it. I know you are probably angry, tired, upset, got some questions for God. I had a lot of questions, but there is beauty that is supposed to come from certain sufferings. There's beauty that is supposed to come once you get past the processing. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into it. Okay, so first things first, I am a person who believes in accountability. We have to be accountable if we want to see change in our lives, if we want to see progress in the areas that we may feel like we just need to see progress. So why do we suffer? Sometimes we suffer because of the things that we have done, our own decision making, the consequences of the things that we have chosen in life. And sometimes we suffer because God allows it. And I know that may make you angry. That may make you feel like that's not fair. Why would God allow me to suffer? If God is good, why would he want me to suffer? And again, I've gone through all the different thoughts and emotions. And over here, we can have real conversations, okay? We have real conversations about life. So no judgment over here. Sometimes you are mad at God. Sometimes you question, how can you be good and you allowed this to happen, or you allowed them to do this to me, or you allowed, this to go on? But as life continued to go on, I started to see the things that I was angry that God allowed to happen. There have been some beautiful things that have come from it, even if it's just me going to the next level and becoming a better person. Yeah, whatever has happened, and life will work itself out eventually. But I had to stop focusing on the why and the what if, and all the different things. I had to stop allowing myself to sit in that place, and it is not easy. It is not easy. I'm on your side, okay? I'm here to tell you, even if somebody has told you that it's easy to just forgive and let go and move on, and you're suffering because you did this and you did that. We don't need all that negative energy, okay? I've heard all the things. Sometimes you literally are just suffering because God has a lesson for you to learn, and not suffering like he's not trying to harm you in the suffering, but there's something beautiful that's going to come from this suffering. And people will try to make it seem like, oh, God is making you suffering because you sinned 10 days ago, because you ate this. It's ridiculous, okay? We're not going to. If anyone is making you feel bad about your circumstance, get those people out of your life. Even in church settings, this can happen. So use your discernment. Don't allow anyone to make you feel bad. One thing about it is that I've seen that God will give you the grace through your suffering when it is of him. Even in the things that we do where we cause our own suffering, this grace I have found is sufficient. Literally, it's sufficient. All right, y'all. So some things will be allowed in your life, some sufferings, and everybody suffers. Everybody eventually goes through some form of suffering, okay? And it may not all look the same. It may not all, happen the same way, but we are all different people. We all live different lives. Some people may have done a lot of their suffering in their childhood. Some people may end up doing their suffering when they're older. It's not a comparison or a contest thing. So don't feel like because the next person next to you hasn't gone through a season that looks like they're suffering, that you have to be mad or jealous or any of the things. We all have a different life. We're all walking a different story. And you don't know what is really going behind the scenes in somebody else's life. Us as people, we naturally don't want to suffer, which I understand. Who wants to sign up to suffer? But us as humans, we crave things that feed our ego. We like things that make us feel good. We want to always be on the high. But I have found that when we go through those seasons of suffering, it humbles us and humbles us in a good way. It may not feel like a good way while it's happening, but when you're constantly on this high in life, when you constantly have good happening in your life, and this is something I've had to learn from my own experience, you're constantly just going and going and going and in all these good seasons, you can start to become insensitive to others. I have been there. I remember when it was, 2020 and all the stuff was going down. Everybody was walking around talking about how terrible life was, and I get that something very tragic was happening and people were losing their lives from the disease that was going around. But everyone just seemed like life was terrible. If I'm being quite honest, that was like a great year for me. That was like a beautiful year for me. Some great things happened for me in 2020. Things that everybody in the world was saying like, oh, you won't be able to do this, or the interest rates are like this, and all of the buzz that was going around. That was a great year for me. Some great things happened for me in that year. And I just remember, like, I still have this vivid memory when I was around people and I was a part of this group and we just talk about life and our faith and everything. And everybody was just going around saying their struggles, and it wasn't funny, their struggles, but I was just like, yeah, this is one of the best years of my life. And I think back and I'm like, gosh, like, even though when you are in a season of rejoicing, everything is good, you don't have to, mope around to make everybody else feel better. But I can see back then how insensitive I was to everybody else and what they were going through because I was in such a good season. And so we're constantly in a great season, and you should still, even in the tough seasons, what feels like a bad season, you should still be able to have some joy from it. But I can just remember like how, like, I just think back, like, maybe I could have, even though it's a good season for me, I didn't have to say it like that, or I didn't have to, like, I was just like, I just don't understand what people are talking about. This is one of the best seasons of my life. So that allowed me to be more sensitive. It humbled me. So I'm not saying that I needed to be humbled because I was in a good season, but now when I look at life, I see it from a place of we all are in different seasons. We all go through different things. Maybe sometimes if you see somebody going through a bad season, they're going through their suffering, you can be compassionate. And I'm not saying you can't tell anybody about the good things happening in your life, but maybe this person may not need to, hear it right now. They may not have the heart to receive what's going on for you right now. But use discernment. If somebody just genuinely does not have good intentions for you, is not happy for you because they're just not happy for you, that's a different thing than somebody just going through a bad season and just having a moment. So going through seasons of suffering can humble us. It can get us to just sit still and really evaluate life. I know when I have been in my good seasons that felt great, and I just felt like I was on top of the world. I guess they call it the mountain season versus the valley season. When I was on my mountain seasons, I look back at the past and I wasn't really sitting around thinking about how I could be better in life and what I could do next in life to grow. And, I wasn't sitting around thinking about the deeper things of life. Not saying that I never thought about them, but You know, when you're happy, you just want to continue the momentum and keep being in the mix of everything and keep enjoying all the things that's happening in life. So it made me sit down and really start to reevaluate life and notice things around me, whether that's the relationships I had around me, whether that's, am I on the right path? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Whether that was me neglecting time where I should have been spending time with God, but I just was not focused on that in some of those seasons. But that is the reality of life. We're not going to always be in this perfect place, but I have noticed that those seasons have brought some things to attention for me and helped me to grow and just really just take a look at my life from a deeper level. When we are in that good place, we not trying to be bothered, okay? I'm in my good place. I ain't worried about this and that. So sometimes that season is needed where we go through suffering because it catches our attention. When we're suffering, best believe we sending all kinds of prayers up. When things are well, are you praying like when you suffering and you want God to deliver you and get you out of a situation? Baby, praying 24/7. But before that, okay, were you talking to God then? So suffering can actually help you to tap in spiritually, like get back on your groove and do what you need to do in that way. And to be honest, even if you get back on it and you start praying, that suffering may not end right away. There may be some other stuff that you need to learn. So I'm not saying that to manipulate or try to, tell you to do certain things to get out of your suffering, but that could be a reason why you have been led to that season or why you are going through that season. Okay, so let's move on. Another reason why you may be going through suffering are some of us go through suffering seasons. I don't even like to say seasons because the suffering that I went through I was thinking about this last night in like my quiet time with God. I was like, there's no way I made it through like my worst of worst seasons out of my own strength. Some people that would have walked through my shoes would have quickly took those shoes off. So some suffering will help you to really see who's holding you up. Okay, I'm gonna leave that there. Sometimes it's not even our own strength. Sometimes God wants us to see that in our suffering, He is the one who keeps us. When I was in my season of suffering, guess what? You know how many people left my side? You know how many people betrayed me and disappeared? Nobody was checking up on me. That is when I got to see who really had my back. That is when I got to see who really I should be talking to and calling on. So sometimes suffering it may hurt during it. It may hurt while you're going through the processing. But what is to come from that suffering is so beautiful. The revelations, the lessons. So now when you're in your good season again, you know who not to bring with you. Now when you're in your good season again, you know who was never there for you. You know who you cannot depend on and count on. Even if it's not a situation where you get the people out of your life, but you know what it is, okay? All right. Okay, so another reason we may be going through suffering or allowed to suffer in life is because suffering matures us. Suffering matures us if it's done well. The things that I'm saying that bring out good things is if you allow yourself to suffer well, because there is a negative side that can come from suffering if you allow it to happen. And I could talk a little bit about that later, but I just want to get these points out while they're at the top of my head. So before I went through a certain season of suffering, I had a very naive mindset of life. And I'm okay with saying that because I have learned so much from that place. I had a very naive mindset of life. It took me going through suffering to wake up. It took me going through betrayals and all these things happening to me to learn the lessons that I need to learn so that moving forward, I know what to look for in people that's not good for me to have around me. I know when something is not right, when something is off, and it needs to be addressed or checked. I know how to now have adult conversations with people because after going through what I've gone through, I don't play about my life anymore. After going through what I have gone through, I don't just allow any and everybody to come in my life and play with me and manipulate me and twist and turn things and try to get things out of me. Once I went through that suffering, things switched up real quick, okay? I learned to love myself. I learned to have boundaries with people. This ain't finna fly over here. It can fly over there with somebody else, but it's not finna fly over here. So suffering allows you to mature and open your eyes and see life from a different lens. Again, because I was graced in my suffering, I still was able to get back that, because in my season of suffering, I felt like I lost my joy. I felt like I lost that spark inside of me, and maybe I did for a little bit, or maybe it was buried deep down, because when you are going through suffering, you ain't feeling good, okay? But when I was going through that, I didn't know how, I was going to get back to my bubbly self. But that's the thing about suffering well and suffering while you're under grace to suffer, is that you will recover from that suffering. Now, if you're suffering from your own choices and decisions, yes, you may still have the grace, but that bounce back may not come as it would if you were under grace to suffer in life. So if you were never supposed to suffer in that way, you never had to suffer, that may look different than, okay, God is just saying, I'm going to lead you here down this path so you can go through this, but you're going to be okay. Even though you may not know this during the process, you're going to be okay. You're going to come up out of this and you're going to look better than you did before. And I'm for real about that. Y'all, before I suffered, I didn't have this glow. I didn't have this boldness. I didn't have this freedom. I wasn't ready to check somebody if they needed to be checked before suffering, but it just did something good for me, good for my soul, good for my soul. It didn't feel good for my soul in the moment, but after it was good for my soul. Everything that everyone did to me, that caused to me, yeah, it shouldn't have happened. Yeah, it shouldn't have went that way. But what came from that suffering, me being allowed to suffer, was greater than what was done. So in the end, it was worth it. In the end, it made me better. In the end, it made me greater. In the end, it gave me new ideas. In the end, I came out with a different plan, a different vision. In the end, those sad days of being down, they eventually ended. Okay, so another reason why you may be suffering, I feel like this kind of ties into the other points, and this is kind of like a straightforward, is that suffering allows you to learn certain lessons in life. If we don't suffer, if we don't go through certain things, if we just kind of float through life constantly in this happy place, in this happy bubble, then what is there to learn? There's no grit in your life to really pull from, no experience to really pull from. If we never go through anything, you are going to meet people along your path that have gone through some similar things. More than likely, you are going to meet people on your path that even if y'all didn't go through the same exact thing, maybe y'all will have something that's kind of along the same kind of line. You know how many people I've come across that I have found that have gone through some things that I've gone through, and it wasn't like forced. It wasn't like I was necessarily looking up a group for people that have gone through this specific thing or anything like that. Just me living out my life, I've come across others that have certain wounds in their heart, or whether it's parental wounds, whether it's this happened, whether it's maybe somebody has relationship wounds. It's just so many things that we can go through. Hopefully the things we go through don't, the bad things we want to keep away as much as possible. But it's just so many things that can happen in different people's lives that you never know. And your situation may actually be something to help others. There are some people that have gone through certain sufferings, and because they've gone through that suffering, now they're able to speak to a whole arena full of people whether it's motivational speaking or whatever it is. That may not be your situation, that may not be your story, but there is a lesson in the sufferings that we are allowed to go through. There's a lesson that is supposed to come from those sufferings. So we're not just thrown out here to suffer just to, be punished and, and I want to challenge you. If you feel angry, which I get it, if you're angry at God, if you feel like he let you down, if you feel like whatever you feel, I challenge you to take it to him. Take it to him. That's what I did. I'm mad about this. This don't look like what you told me. This don't look like what was discussed. This was not right. This was unfair. I do the right by this person and they did this to me. I challenge you to take it to him and see what he does. I'm not saying that you'll get an answer that moment, the next day, but I do hope that as life goes on, maybe you will get the answer right then and there. Maybe you will get the answer the next day. Maybe it'll come a year, 2 years, 5 years from when you ask, but I do hope that you get the answers that you're looking for. Now, before I end this video, I just want to talk about when you do go through suffering. If you're not suffering well, you may notice yourself staying in a state, and I say a state because you may still experience some of these things, but that doesn't mean that you're not suffering well. You just could be having a bad day and just feeling the emotions of bitterness, of anger, of resentment, you could be feeling depressed, sad, anxious, hopeless, defeated. So these are some things that you can feel even in suffering well. But when you start to allow these things to become now your state, that could be a sign that you're not suffering well. That could be a sign that whatever you're suffering from or going through is actually not really benefiting you or not helping you. And so if you find yourself in that space, I would just say maybe just sit back and reassess your situation. See if it is just a heart thing. Maybe you have to open your heart to what you may be experiencing. Again, accountability. I believe if you don't have accountability, it's no point in trying to resolve something or fix something if you cannot look at the reasons of why something could be happening and try to work from that place. So look and reassess your situation. Are you just not getting the lesson from what you're supposed to be going through? And so you find yourself in a cycle back to back to back because you're not getting the lesson. That brings me back to, there's a specific type of suffering that I kept suffering from when it came to friends. Specific type of suffering. And I couldn't understand why. Of all things, why this? But you know what? God allowed it because there was a lesson to be learned. I didn't need to be sharing this information with so-called friends. I shouldn't have been running my mouth. Nobody needed to be this close to me to know all of this information about me. But once I got it, moving forward, I noticed that there was people coming around, kind of like, it was like a test again. Like you can sense that this feels familiar. This is something that I have dealt with before and it's coming back around. So now that you have gone through the suffering and the tests and the trials and you have learned your lessons, now you know how to handle this situation coming back around towards you. You know not to let this in. You know when to speak up and stand up against whatever the thing may be. Sometimes we may even find ourselves continuing to be in a season or suffering because we're just not getting the lesson. We're just not getting this thing that we need to get in order to prosper in this next level of life. And do you have to get it? You can say, whatever, I'm done with this and going about your day. But I find that some of the things that we just have to learn in life is going to come back in some other way. So you might as well just submit to getting a lesson while it is there. Alright, you guys, so I am about to end this video. If you are in a season of suffering, I hope that you are able to get through it. And I hope that you are able to do it well. I hope that any stain of bitterness, of resentment, of anger, of just sadness, feeling depressed, I hope that that does not stay with you, that you're able to get the lesson that you need to get and move forward in your life, okay? Get to that next level and walk out of that season better than ever, okay? However they left you, you're going to be on a whole nother level once that season is over with and you come up out of that. I don't know when your season will end, but I'm hoping that it will end soon and all that you were supposed to get, that you get from it. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you are encouraged for this day, and yeah, be sure to tune into any other videos that interest you. Bye.